Hey everybody, Retro Gaming Guy here. Today in this video, we are going to unbox and review the Anbernic RG35XX Handheld video game console. This comes with thousands and thousands of retro video games pre-installed on it, ready to go on a 64GB micro SD card. So we are going to unbox it, dive into it, and see if we like it. Let's get started. All right, so here we have the Anbernic RG35XX, and we are going to open this up. So, very nice packaging, as we typically do get from Anbernic. So I'll set the console aside real quick. Inside here, it looks like we have what we typically do get from Anbernic, which is a set of wipes, obviously the instruction manual, but right here we have a screen protector. So I'm not going to put this on here just yet. It makes it a little bit easier for these videos to not have that on there. But love the fact that they do include a screen protector, and they are quite sturdy. They hold up very nicely. I've used them in the past, so I expect the same level of performance out of that. So let's open up the console itself. Nice padding on here. And wow, that is really cool. Let me see if it actually says what they call this particular color. There we go, right there. Transparent purple. So it really takes me back to that transparent purple, or atomic purple, I think they called it, the Game Boy that they had. So it's very retro in that you can see, through it. That's what makes it transparent. Love that it has those 90s vibes to it. So let's take a look down here. Where is our micro SD card slot? So there we go. Micro SD card slot here and here. And let's just pop that out and see what is included on here. So this is a 64GB micro SD card. So I'm going to go ahead and reinsert that up here. And let's power this on. You can see, actually, before we power it on, we'll just take a closer look at the layout here. So I've just zoomed in ever so slightly. Here we have A, B, X, and Y, so 4-button configuration, D-pad, and then we have start and select. Very much the same layout as a old-style Game Boy Color. But if we flip this over, you'll notice on the back side, we have shoulder and trigger buttons. We have R1, R2, L1, and L2 here. They lay out really nicely back there, so I do like the feel to that. Over here on the side, we have a reset button, power button right above that. We already saw the micro SD card slots. We have two, so this one is an extension one. This is going to be the main one, which already has that 64GB micro SD card in there. And then right over here we have our volume control, so plus and minus there in order to go up and down. So let's power this on. All right, so I just readjusted just to try to minimize glare. You can see I'm in a well-lit room, so it is hard to kind of find a spot where we're not going to get glare. But that's actually a good thing about this particular handheld. When you have glare on there like that, it usually means that you have a very nice quality to your screen, really nice shine to it, which is definitely the case here. So when we load up the stock micro SD card, again, it's a 64GB micro SD card, we come into game rooms. But if we go over to the right, we have favorites, we have history, we have search, and we have settings, and then it just defaults back over. So I'm going to select game room with the A button. And in here, right off the bat, I can see that we have PS1 games, we have vertical arcade games, we have CPS games, which is going to be Capcom, Neo Geo, FBA hacks, MAME games, Game Boy Advance, NES, Super Nintendo. And then you can see here we have SMS games, which I assume means Sega Master System. MD would be Mega Drive, and you can see the icons over here on the right hand side. Game Boy Color games, Game Boy games, PC Engine games, Neo Geo Pocket Color, Game Gear, Wonder Swan, and then we are back up to the top. So I'm going to jump into a handful of games here. The volume quality, and I'm just hearing the little clicking as I go through here, but the volume seems to be really good. I want to check and see where I am. We don't get an on-screen notification as to how high the volume actually is, so it seems like it's just going to be going off of the volume by ear. So let's go into PS1. Let's see what we have in here. So in order to exit games, we just hit the menu button in the center while we're in a game. And if we decide we want to go back to that game, all you have to do is just hit the B button and it brings you right back. So I'm going to hit menu. I'm going to confirm exit game with the A button right here, and it should take us right back out to our menu. So we jumped into Tekken 3. Tekken 3, I noticed a slight delay in audio. It had no effect on the actual performance of the game. It was just a little funny to see that there is an audio delay there. So I jumped into Medal of Honor. The performance there was actually great, and I wanted to check out Medal of Honor specifically because you're using the shoulder and trigger buttons in the back to aim and to shoot, or actually more so to aim than to shoot, because the B button here is actually the shoot button, which would be X on a PS1. No issues with the gameplay whatsoever. I was actually, to my surprise, really comfortable to actually use those shoulder and trigger buttons in the back. So we are going to exit out of this collection here. And PS1 is probably the most advanced on here, so I want to check out something else that sometimes gives us issues. So we're going to go into MAME. We're going to see what we have inside here. So inside the MAME collection, there are 69 titles in MAME. So a decent selection for sure. I have no reservations about this collection. It's very easy to actually play these games, but just to try one of them out, because all the collections on here seem to be, you know, well within the range of performance for this particular handheld, given the fact that PS1 worked so well. Alright, so no issues inside of Hook for the MAME collection. So let's check out one more game from one other collection on here. Let's jump into some Metal Slug 5 for Neo Geo. Alright guys, I have to say, really enjoyed playing on the Anbernic RG35XX Handheld console. And first and foremost, I want to mention the fact that this is a smaller, more compact console. So we only have a 3.5 inch 640 by 480 display. It's a good size for it being a compact console, but I do want to make mention of that because sometimes obviously in videos we can't see exactly how big or how small this handheld is. But you can see my hand right behind it. It's about the size of, a little bit larger than my palm itself, but very compact, and the resolution and screen quality on here is great for its size. Now, another thing I want to mention is the audio quality. A lot of times when we see manufacturers make game consoles like this, handheld game consoles like this, and they make them more compact, we lose audio quality. Everything usually starts to sound garbled or distorted. It just sounds like they just crammed too much into a small package, and it just starts to echo, starts to vibrate. We don't have that going on here at all. So I do want to make mention of that because it definitely is better than some of the other alternatives, you know, in that smaller scale. So really high quality, really crisp volume on here and audio. Just really happy with that. Now the buttons function beautifully. I thought honestly that the shoulder and trigger buttons on the back would be a little awkward to play with because it is that smaller scale. So I jumped into Medal of Honor for PS1 and found out really quickly that it's actually very comfortable to play. Very comfortable to be able to hit the B button. It is here. I'm thinking X because PS1 it would be X over there. But to hit that button, which fired in Medal of Honor, while hitting the R1 button on the back to aim, it actually felt really comfortable. I didn't feel anything, you know, unstable about holding it in my hands or anything like that. So I was really pleasantly surprised there. Very easy to navigate. The D-pad works very well. It was a little bit tight at first. It seemed to break in nicely. Maybe I just got used to it, but it is also raised up considerably. So I'm going to try to show you guys that here. You can see D-pad sits up here quite a bit, which actually makes it easier to kind of rock it back and forth, especially if you're going in those diagonal sort of directions, because in some games you're going to be using that D-pad in place of an analog stick, like with Tekken 3 for PS1, which you could use, you know, on the real true system. You could use the D-pad as well as the analog stick to navigate and jump and all that stuff. But here, obviously, we don't have analog sticks, so we're just using the D-pad, and it does work very nicely. It takes a little getting used to, depending on what you're used to playing, you know, for controls on that particular game. But in the end, it does function very nicely. Everything else, though, the layout of the controls, it reminds me, like I said before, of a Game Boy Color, especially even the transparent look. It's very 90s. Love that transparent look. It just takes me back to, you know, gaming on a Game Boy Color back in the day. So really like that, and I love the fact that it's smaller. I know a lot of people like those big clunky handhelds. I don't. You know, I like something a little bit more compact. I'm going to have it pretty close to me when I'm gaming like this anyways. So I'm just not a big fan of clunky handhelds. Like the Steam Deck is super popular right now. It's a great handheld, but it's so big. You know, it just can be a little bit awkward. This is nice. This is more for somebody like me that's a casual handheld gamer. I don't have a ton of time on the go to game. When I do, I just want something light, something easy to dive into. And the fact that this comes preloaded with a micro SD card, it's a 64 gigabyte micro SD card, and it's got thousands and thousands of games on it. It advertises over 5,000. I went collection by collection and actually counted up the totals of games for each collection, and it's 5,495 games. In total, everything is ready to go. Plug and play. All you have to do is select the game, hit the A button to launch it, and you're good to go. You don't have to go into settings, do any adjusting. You don't have to map the controls. Everything is 100% turnkey on here. So it just makes it such an effortless experience for the gamer that just wants to grab something, power it on, and jump into it. Now, one thing I want to mention when I unboxed this, I forgot to actually open up the portion of the box within that has the cable. So it does come with a charging cable. The battery life on here is about 4.5 hours in my experience. If you're you know, playing, you know, an intense game or a more challenging game, then it could be a little bit less than that. But in my experience, it was over 4 hours of game time here. And I'll say this, it wasn't me that found that out. It was my kids that were playing with this and ran it dry. So that's how I know exactly how long that battery life lasts on here. So it does come with the charging cable though. You're going to want to use that, of course. But that's going to do it for today. Let me know in the comment section what you guys thought of the Anbernic RG35XX Handheld video game console. And if you want information on it, click the link at the top of your screen or jump down to the description of this video and click the link down there to get some more information. I'm not going to quote the price from Anbernic because prices fluctuate, but I will say it's considerably less than $100. And for what you get here, again, when you consider everything involved, I think it's an absolute steal at that price point. So highly recommend it. I'm always a big fan of Anbernic. They put out consistent products, high quality, and I've always had a good experience so far with all the handhelds that I've bought. And I've had a whole lot of handhelds in the last couple of years. So that's my recommendation here. That's my take on this. Let me know what your take is in the comments below. That's going to do it for today, though. If you enjoyed the content, give me a thumbs up on the video. Huge help to me here on YouTube. And, of course, hit that subscribe button to stay in the loop for all future videos here on the Retro Gaming Guy YouTube channel. Thanks for watching. I'll see you on the next one.